Hello, everyone. I'm Steven Sigmund.
And I'm Mike Massinio.
And welcome to the Weekly Movie Throwdown, a discussion show where each week we dig into a film that fits our overall monthly theme. This month, that theme is Stories of Summer. And this week, we are talking about The Way, Way Back from 2013, directed by Jim Rash and Nat Faxon. Before we get into it, though, we have a little bit of news for you.
Yeah, so I have a little news thing just for you, bit of a callback.
Ooh, okay.
I read that Guy Ritchie has now exited Roadhouse 2,
Oh, I wish everybody would.
which is sad because that was probably the only reason I would have watched Roadhouse 2.
Okay.
So, yeah, no new director yet, apparently.
I'm convinced, and maybe I need to be the one to make it, but the only effective Roadhouse is a prequel. And I hate prequels, but I think Young Dalton, maybe that's what it's called. It's a CBS show, Young Dalton. I don't know. But, him and Wade Garrett, how they meet, how they come up, that's intriguing. More Jake Gyllenhaal, probably not.
Yeah, I think I would support that. Well, I also saw that the guy who is writing Roadhouse 2 is the guy that wrote Bad Boys Ride or Die, which is a movie I couldn't get through more than 20 minutes of. So that's not great for me.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
I'll never watch Roadhouse 2. Never watched the first one with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah. So for the other parts of the news for me, I'm gonna get on my soapbox for a couple minutes if you don't mind.
Please.
So I came across two things that I had some thoughts about. One, it was the mid-year kind of box office roundup of stuff that's gone on, and one of the takeaways was that the highest grossing movies so far this year have been PG. And I think this just kind of fits into my own place where I am at the moment, because I think I've said this before, that I have a 10-year-old and, always trying to find good things to watch with him. And I find it's just getting really, really hard to find movies to watch with a 10-year-old that don't have a ton of bad language or just a huge body count. Like, I'm just trying to keep the body count down lately. I just feel like the bodies are piling up. And I don't know. I mean, obviously, who am I to say? I grew up in the 80s. I watched more bodies drop than anybody, but it's just something I've been thinking about lately. Like, just the nice movies that involve people where no one gets murdered. Why not?
I think the way we grew up, there was no realism to it. And now it's very realistic.
That's a great point. Because I was thinking about this. You're totally right. Because I was thinking about Commando for that reason. Like, I felt like I could watch Commando with my 10-year-old because it is so cartoonishly ridiculous that it doesn't even matter. It doesn't feel real. And you're right. The realism is so much higher now.
Yeah.
So good point. But yeah, so I just feel like I hope that this is a kind of a nod. I understand that in these instances that both of these PG movies that were huge, Minecraft and Lilo and Stitch, and even How to Train Your Dragon, were existing. And so there was a familiarity with them. And I understand that played into it as well. But I have to believe that this much money being made will prove that PG is still a viable rating. And it brings people out. It's like people want to watch things with their kids. And but this is the thing, it doesn't have to be dumbed down either. It doesn't have to be an animated movie or something silly or something ridiculous. You can find that middle ground where it just doesn't involve tons of cursing or tons of murder. I feel like there's got to be a place, where you can split that difference. So, yeah, hopefully this leads to something more with that.
Well, I think that you see a lot of pushback now against things like sex scenes in films, and a lot of that comes from younger people. So maybe violence could be kind of the same thing, where if there's a demand for less sex and violence, then that's probably what's going to be made. You could see the rise of like Angel Studios, that kind of Christian outfit that does like the movies.
And that's the problem too. This is where I always end up steering my way into places that end up making me uncomfortable, because it's like I inherently agree with some of that, where it's like there should be movies that exist without all the sex and violence. Right. I also don't think they need to be explicitly Christian either. I don't think that should be the only place you can get those kinds of movies. You should be able to make a PG movie that doesn't, even though I'm soapboxing, that doesn't soapbox about anything. It's just a regular movie like that. We should be able to pull that off. They did it back in the day all the time.
Yeah, I'm looking over the top 10, and it looks like number one is something called Ni Za 2. I don't even know what that is, but it's it's made like $2 billion. I assume this is the worldwide box office, so I guess there's something somewhere else that made maybe it's Chinese. I don't know.
I love that. It's so American. It's like if something's made somewhere else, whatever. It's made some money. It's fine. Like, I don't know.
I'm not up on the foreign box office the way I probably should be, but yeah, everything that's not R-rated in the top 10 is animated. It seems like, or a live action version of an animated movie. So
Yeah, that is where we have relegated PG movies, and I think that there's more than that. That we can do more than that with the PG rating. I just do. So
yeah, well, at 19 is Karate Kid Legends. I think that's probably the first thing I see on this list. That's probably more in line with what you're talking about. Is like we need more Karate Kid kind of stuff, I guess.
yeah, we need more Karate Kid in theory, less Karate Kid in reality. But
Very
yeah.
true. Yeah.
So so my one last soapbox statement here. Another thing I came across recently. It was an article about Elio, that Pixar movie that bombed recently. And I told you I'm down for this stuff. These are movies I would go see. I like Pixar, and I'm always interested in what they're doing. And I saw the trailer for this movie, and it just felt like nothing to me. Like, it just felt like I don't even understand what this movie is or why it exists. Like, it just didn't feel like anything to me. And this article kind of uh, clued in as to why that was the case. Like, I'm not crazy. That it turns out there was a ton of behind the scenes controversy, not controversy, but a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes with this movie, where the original director walked away. They brought in new people at the last minute. They rewrote a lot of dialogue. They kind of essentially changed what the core of the movie was, which was partially that the character seemed to lean towards being queer, but not really queer because the kid's 11. But just this idea, he's a quirky little kid, kind of finding himself and figuring out who he is and why he's different and all of that. And that's part of what the movie reinforces. But someone, for whatever reason, didn't like that part of it, and they kind of removed all of that from the movie. And so when you remove the core of what made all the things in the movie kind of cohere, you end up with a movie that makes no sense and doesn't mean anything, which is kind of what I saw in the trailer. And regardless of what we feel, I mean, everybody's obviously obsessed about all this stuff lately, about even with Superman, everybody's got a friggin' feeling about this kind of stuff. I don't care about any of that in the larger context about what it means or whether it's acceptable for this or make a queer movie. I don't care about any of that. To me, what it always comes down to is you hire someone, you trust their vision, and you let them make the movie they want to make. This goes back to the big bounce, what we talked about way back, in the last episode. It's like if you take a movie and then you chop it to pieces and remove everything from what made that movie the movie, you're going to end up with nothing, and you're going to fail anyway.
Yeah.
So they did all this because they were afraid no one would go see it, and then no one went to see it anyway because it had no voice and no vision. You might as well just roll the dice, trust your filmmaker to make the movie they want to make, and hope that people will find it, because what people are looking for is passion at the end of the day. When you watch a movie, you want to see a point of view, and you want to see something that matters. And I think it would have made more money if you'd left it alone, because it would have resonated with someone, as opposed to the nothingness you made that no one went to go see.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I think the only thing is that the concern of people finding it is not on the agenda for Pixar. Like, they need to make people watch it. Like, they
That's
can't
fair.
trust that.
I mean, that's right. But again, if you'd have told someone, back in the day, this was the same people that made Coco. Did Coco have the makings of a hit when you saw it? It's like, none of that stuff really appealed to me in the abstract.
Yeah.
And yet the movie was wonderful. It had so much to say. Like, it was really moving. And so it's like, if the filmmaker cares enough about what they're making, they should be able to win you over. And then word of mouth spreads. And I think that's just how it can work. But yeah, you're right. Pixar isn't necessarily in that business, and that's what hamstrung this. But the minute you start changing everything, it's like with Solo, it's another one.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's like if you suddenly change the creative team midway, or even this movie was 3/4 finished, I don't think you could end up with a successful movie. It just doesn't really work that way.
Yeah, that's sad. I think, Pixar can't rely on that, but Warner Brothers really can't either. And look what happened with Sinners. I mean, they let Ryan Coogler make his own film. It's like the anti Big Bounce. They,
Right.
they let him do what he wanted to do, and people did find it. So there's something to be said for that.
I mean, every movie is a roll of the dice, and not everything's going to hit. But that's the whole point. You can't engineer it. I mean, you can't reverse engineer hits. It not hardly ever works. And that's what the MCU is finding out right now.
Yeah.
There's no real formula. There's just a total side note, but my son was sharing this with me because we were talking about James Gunn. And when James Gunn wrote about like the Infinity Stones in the first Guardians of the Galaxy, I think it was, he had no idea what the hell he was talking about. He didn't know anything about the Infinity Stones. He had no idea what was going to come from that. He just put it in the script. And it ended up being the thing that they grasped onto, which ends up being the core of where the movies end up going.
Right.
Which I don't know if anyone knew that at the time.
Wow.
And again, the great point there is you let people run with things, you give them certain freedoms, and then you find ideas within it that end up becoming great. But if you try to reverse engineer it from the top, you're just never going to end up with that kind of magic. I just think it's very, very hard to pull off.
It is, especially in a corporate environment. I mean, I think James Gunn is kind of an outlier in Marvel, and same with Taika Waititi to a degree. They're directors who bring their vision into a template, and maybe that's kind of how it was with Elio, but it didn't work out. And yeah, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bummer. I almost don't feel like talking about movies anymore. It's so sad. But I don't have much news this week other than a little bit of speculation, which I don't really love getting into. But a couple reboot things announced this week. According to the Hot Goss, George Lucas very invested in rebooting Indiana Jones as soon as possible. And I don't know. I've seen talk about this maybe not being the case and some of it maybe being the case, but they put a poll online as to who they would want to see be the new Indiana Jones. And at the top of the heap were Chris Evans and Glenn Powell. So take from that what you will.
Did I nail Glenn Powell or did I nail Glenn Powell?
I mean, it's IP. He loves the IP. He'd be great for it.
Hey, speaking of, I finally saw the trailer. I saw the first trailer for The Running Man.
Yeah, what'd you think?
This week? I thought it looked fun, but it's very different than the original. And that's the thing. I never read this story that the movie's based on.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know whether the original movie or this movie adheres closer to the original story.
Right.
But it's fun, but in a slightly different way. What it reminded me of, there was an Amazon movie like a year ago about like the lottery, where like you win the lottery, like. But the idea is like the person that wins it for like 24 hours, anyone can get the ticket from you, and it's theirs.
Yeah.
So it's like you could basically just murder people and take the ticket, and it becomes like an all-out like hunt for that person.
Yeah.
And that's what this Running Man felt more like than the original Running Man, which is like a TV show in a specific controlled environment. So opening it up to like everyone, I don't know whether that was in the original book or not. I think I like the original storyline a little bit better. But then again, I like Edgar Wright and I trust him, and so I'm more than willing to roll with this.
Yeah.
But that was different than I expected.
It creates a big level of anxiety for me thinking about what that would be like for Glenn Powell to be hunted by everyone.
Right.
So that's interesting.
And the other part is that they seem to do it because they're strapped for cash, whereas the original it was because you were arrested and that was the key part of it. It was criminals. So that seems to be another change. But again, I'm actually really interested to go back and read the story now because I want to see what the original story was like.
I'm seeing a little bit of a pattern. Well, maybe it's not a pattern yet, but hearing that The Running Man is like that because people are strapped for cash makes me think of that other Stephen King film that's coming out, The Long Walk.
Yep.
So it's like, is that where we're headed? I mean, is this going to be the reality soon enough where people have to do this crazy stuff to get money?
I mean, aren't they already doing that? Isn't that what reality television is in a nutshell?
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I feel like Stephen King was kind of ahead of the curve on this one.
lower stakes on reality TV than in these films. So
That is fair. But I mean, don't you feel like in your bones that's eventually where we're heading?
it seems that way. Oh, now I really don't want to talk about movies. I want to get
Sorry,
back into bed.
I'm just killing the mood here. I'm sorry.
But the other reboot news this week is that they're rebooting Night at the Museum with Sean Levy, who directed the first three, maybe two or three, and Dan Levine producing. Dan Levine did a lot of stuff with Ben Stiller. He produced Along Came Polly and The Watch and a few other things. But it's being written by Tripper Clancy, who I had never heard of before, but it turns out he wrote Stuber, which is the Kumail Nanjiani, Dave Bautista film from Amazon a couple years ago. And he wrote the Die Hard films with Kevin Hart. So I assume, that's kind of his wheelhouse, and the tone seems similar to what the original ones were. But I don't know if we need this or Indiana Jones.
Those movies aren't even that old. I mean, they're only like, unless I'm old and don't even realize it, but I feel like they were like 25 years old, maybe.
Well, I mean, they're rebooting Indiana Jones and they're still making them. Like,
that's a fair point.
Unless they're done now. I don't know. Was the last one
George Lucas? It's like, come on, man. I know you only made like 3 things, but just stop beating your things to death. Like, just leave it alone.
Yeah, nothing's off the table anymore.
But yes, how's this for a segue? It's sunny outside. It's still the morning, and I'm already sweating. So we should talk about summer movies. There you go.
All right, that's a great segue. Okay. Let's talk about The Way, Way Back. It's a film from 2013, written and directed by the team of Jim Rash and Nat Faxon. Quick side note right away. I just learned this week because I'm working on a book at our job about Back to the Future. And there's a credit on the copyright page to Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis for the writing of the Back to the Future. And it has to be an ampersand for them because the Writers Guild rules say that if you're writing as a team, you have to have an ampersand. So like on this film, Nat Faxon and Jim Rash would have an ampersand in their contract. But if it's like them writing plus they brought in another writer, then it would be the word and. This is like the most minute thing that I've ever talked about on this show, and I will probably cut it out. But I just found it really interesting that the ampersand has to be there.
I love that. That's the nerdiest fact we've had yet. I think we should totally leave it in because that's fascinating to me.
Okay, so with that aside.
So yeah. Well, so Nat Faxon, Jim Rash are they were both in sketch comedy together. I can't remember what troupe it was, but they've been friends and worked together for quite a few years. So they started writing together, and just out of the gate. So this movie kind of only exists because the Descendants existed 2 years before it.
Yeah,
they wrote the Descendants, which gets picked up by Alexander Payne, stars George Clooney, and opens up a window to bring back this script, which they had written years before, and just kind of sat there, and no one wanted to make it. And then suddenly, people want to get into the Nat Faxon, Jim Rash business.
And the reason they want to do that is because they won an Oscar for the Descendants.
That is correct.
So, yeah, then that was 2011, and then this gets made. This was written mid-2000s, and it was actually a blacklist script in 2007, which are like the best scripts that aren't picked up by a studio. So it's been kicking around for a while. It was called The Way Back until another movie called The Way Back came out in 2010. So they had to add the second way in there. But
was that the Ben Affleck basketball movie?
I don't know.
Or did that come out after that?
I think that came out after that.
Yeah, the only Way Back movie I know is that Ben Affleck movie, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so let me just tell you what this is about real quick. It's the story of Duncan, who's kind of your typical awkward teen, and he's forced to go on summer vacation with his recently divorced mom and her new boyfriend, Trent, and Trent's daughter. And he's very out of place in his family. sort of comes across the local water park where he finds Owen, played by Sam Rockwell, who really kind of becomes a mentor to him. And it's, I was thinking about it, it's another story where somebody in the film unlocks the main character. And we talked about this a lot with the Tom Cruise movies, where Cameron Diaz and Jamie Foxx were kind of like, I mean, I guess it's just the hero's journey in a way. Like basically, most movies are like that. But
Some ways.
even going back to 310 to Yuma, I was thinking about how Russell Crowe's character sort of like makes Christian Bale's character step up. And Sam Rockwell really empowers Duncan in this film, which is kind of the whole thing. I mean, Sam Rockwell's really at the heart of it, I believe, and it's really fun. I didn't remember enjoying this very much, but I watched it twice this week, and I really fell in love with it.
Huh.
How are you with it?
Yeah, I remember part of the reason I think I brought it up when we were talking about this theme. I saw this years ago and really liked it. I was surprised at how much I did like it because, again, these kinds of movies are a dime a dozen in a lot of ways. You've seen a lot of versions of this, and they can all feel kind of the same. And even though the beats of this, the general structure of it is familiar,
Yeah,
there's just a lot of heart in it, a lot of subtle humor um, that make it work. And I think that part of what makes this work too is that even though you're focusing on Duncan as the main character, everyone is kind of pretty well drawn. They all have their own dynamics, and the parents get a lot of screen time. In a fun way, it's like the parents are the children, and the children are the adults,
mhm,
because and they mention that that place is kind of like spring break for parents,
right.
and they get to act like kids, and so you get to see that the dynamic shifts in that way, and so he's trying to find his own way while also dealing with no parental figures because they're all kind of acting like fools.
Yeah,
Uh, but there's just a lot of heart in the movie, and we talked about that before. I think maybe that's our overall theme for a good summer type movie. There has to be a little bit of heart to it.
yeah,
I will say though, and I think they actually mention this when we talk about Sam Rockwell, the Owen character, and he explicitly mentions that he is channeling Bill Murray,
yeah,
and they also mention that Meatballs was a bit of the inspiration for this, and yeah, it's impossible not to see it once it's mentioned. That I actually went back and rewatched Meatballs, which is a
oh,
movie I haven't
nice.
seen in a very long time.
Mhm.
And surprisingly, going back and rewatching Meatballs, I forgot how much heart that movie had.
Yeah,
You used to kind of later Bill Murray, which is a little bit harsher, but in that one, yeah, it's a pretty sweet movie. Other than the never-ending sexual innuendo throughout the whole movie,
right.
but it's a really sweet movie at the end of the day, and it's exactly a similar structure where a kid comes to the camp. We don't really know why. He's got a weird relationship with his father, and father drops him off, and he's not good at sports or anything. And Bill Murray's character takes him under his wing and kind of helps him grow and become more confident in himself. So it's kind of almost exactly the same in some ways.
Yeah,
And Bill Murray's character is very much what you would think he would be, and Sam Rockwell really channels that almost perfectly. It's a fine line to walk between being irresponsible and yet be likable.
yeah,
And other people have tried and failed to do similar things. And that's why Bill Murray is kind of considered a national treasure because he's really good at doing that. And I think Rockwell is almost second in doing it. I think I love almost everything Sam Rockwell does, and this is a really really good role for him.
yeah. He does walk that line, and he kind of steps over it at one point with the Maya Rudolph character. Maya
Hmm.
Rudolph, by the way, very pregnant during the filming of this, and not really trying to show that, but it's pretty apparent. But it's really funny, and I just want to get back to you mentioning the parents, because I watched a handful of these films from around this time uh, in preparation for this. So I watched The Kings of Summer and I watched Adventureland, and they're very much like a collective with this. And both of those also have parents who are um, either kind of strict or just completely irresponsible. Case of Adventureland, Jesse Eisenberg's character, his parents, Jack Gilpin and Wendy Malick, they tell him he can't go to college and he has to work for the summer to like
Right.
save money for it. And the Kings of Summer, the main character's dad is Nick Offerman, and he's just very overbearing, almost like Ron Swanson in a way. Like he has that Ron Swanson energy with the kid, and in both of these instances, just like in the way back, the kids leave the house and find somewhere during the summer where they can be free. And I think that's, what's so great about this film is that like it's so obvious. I mean, even in like set design, because the house is so sort of claustrophobic and dark. And then he goes to this water park and it's just like alive. It's blue and open, and all these crazy characters are there. And yeah, they all have this commonality of like finding yourself outside of the oppression of parents, whether those parents are irresponsible or just bad at parenting. And I really love that about it, and I love that theme because it's very moving to watch, for some reason for me as an older person, just
Yeah,
remembering what that was like, like
I agree. I The thing with this one though is they do kind of sneak in a grown up storyline.
mhm.
With his mother kind of dealing with dating this guy who we find out may possibly be cheating on her, and some of that isn't. It's not even really resolved in a lot of ways, because we're seeing a lot of it through Duncan's eyes. That we never get like the full resolution of what's happening. But there's this undercurrent where we don't really know. I mean, we don't like Trent, obviously, but we don't fully know exactly what's going on. But they focus a lot on that on that characterization, the relationship with Trent and his mom, and what is it, Kip and Joan? Yeah,
Kip and Joan, who are they?
Kip and Joan. They're friends.
Oh yeah, the Rob Corddry and Amanda Peet, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Rob
yeah,
Corddry
okay.
and Amanda Peet. See, you didn't think I knew their names. I did. I remembered.
Wow, I didn't go that far. uh
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. I think we see at the end that, I mean, we're jumping very far ahead, but I think the story of Duncan's mom, I mean, she has a conversation with him right before they leave to go home, that she doesn't think he would understand because he's 14, and uh, she's scared. She said she's scared. And I think that's, she's coming off of divorce and is just kind of putting herself through the ringer, it seems like, to be with Trent, even though he's like one of the worst characters I've ever seen in my life. I mean, from like the first line in the film, the first interaction he has with Duncan is asking him if he, like, what number he thinks he is on a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah.
And that sets the tone, shows you exactly who Trent is, tells you how Duncan feels about himself.
Yeah, so let's talk about Steve Carell in this. There's a few things. One, I don't know if you came across this, but that story about him asking him what number he is, apparently that's a true story
Yeah.
that Jim Rash actually went through, and he put that almost verbatim into the movie, which is pretty depressing when you think about it. I think his own stepfather
Yeah.
had that conversation with him, which is amazing. But look, I mean, we know Steve Carell as a funny guy, a comedic actor, a very likable guy, which is part of why his Michael Scott works so well. That he was like a terrible, annoying person, but you watched so many scenes of The Office because Steve Carell was still likable at the end of the
Yeah.
day, and he does a really good job here of kind of suppressing a ton of that to make Trent pretty unlikable, but just enough that you don't fully hate him, and you see some little thing in Trent's character that makes you realize why she might have fallen for him.
Right.
And so I think it's a really good acting part by Stevie Carell. I think he's kind of underrated as a dramatic actor. He was in a movie called Dan in Real Life, which he
Uh-huh.
made around this time as well, which is one of those small movies that I really, really liked that no one seems to know about. But yeah, I always like this part of his work. Um, but on a side note, they had gone to him initially to play this part with Trent, and he turned it down because he was still working on The Office at the time, I believe. I think, because this was 2012. And he said that the summer is usually when he spends time with his own family. And so he didn't want to commit to a project. And he spends his summers with his family up in the lakes in Massachusetts.
Mhm.
And so they said to him, like, well, what if we just filmed it exactly where you are? Like, would you commit to the movie? So that's why this movie is filmed where it is in Massachusetts, because I think that's where Steve Carell was already staying. And they just brought the entire movie to him so
And
he could be in it.
his so Nat Faxon went out and scouted a bunch of houses to be the house that they stay in the movie, and he just took photos of houses around the area to bring back and show to everybody. And one of the houses he photographed was Steve Carell's in-laws' house. So apparently, it's like a family thing up there. Um, Also to note that the water park in this is the same water park from Grown Ups, the Adam Sandler movie.
Oh,
Had
get
the
out of here.
same name in that as well, Water Whiz.
I
So,
have never seen Grown Ups, so
really?
no, I haven't. And just one more side note about Trent, which I have to say is why I appreciate the writing in this movie. As I have always said, you cannot trust a person that calls you bud or buddy all the time.
Yeah.
Uh, and clearly they agree with me, because that is the only thing he calls Duncan throughout the entire movie. And it gets worse as the movie goes on and you find yourself hating him more.
Yeah.
That last buddy at the end, you just want to, you just want to punch him right in the stomach. Like,
He is so overtly a narcissistic asshole, and it's really upsetting to watch. And narcissists generally have like a target, and the target in this is clearly Duncan. He makes him wear this ridiculous life preserver on the boat when nobody else has one, even though he can swim. There's a point where they're at I think it's one of the things where they're having like the clam bake or whatever, and he says that cooler is not going to carry itself to the car, buddy. And it's just it's so condescending the way he talks to this kid. So it makes perfect sense that Duncan would feel this way, the way he does about Trent, and it's really upsetting to watch. It reminded me a lot of maybe sort of a different version with the volume turned up. But it reminded me of the stepdad in Boyhood, if you remember that, and
yeah.
how the guy was just like a total self-absorbed asshole. I mean, it kind of sucks, but uh, mentioning how this is a departure for Steve Carell. The next year he would do Foxcatcher, where he played like a really creepy John DuPont too. So
Yeah.
this whole time is kind of like just him sort of going in a different direction.
I think that makes sense, because I mean, The Office kind of taps out on, you know, what Steve Carell can do in terms of comedy, and so I can understand why he's looking to branch out at this point and trying to find darker material to work with.
At the
But
same time, he's doing Despicable Me though, and
that's
and
fair.
Anchorman. So
That is a fair point.
yeah,
I mean, speaking of just the cast in general, I mean, I think this speaks a lot to the two filmmakers. As I said, Faxon and Rash had worked together in sketch comedy. They were well known, and a lot of people respected their work. And so I think that helped to bring in a lot of these people to work with them who really wanted to work with them and trust them. So you get, a pretty good group of actors. I mean, Rob Corddry obviously is, I really like him. Interestingly enough, he would have been, you almost would have thought that he would play Trent instead of Steve Carell, because Rob Corddry has a really good streak of playing
yeah,
jerks.
he does.
So he easily could have played that part too. But his character is actually probably the nicest one out of the entire group. I mean, he's the one being cheated on and doesn't even know it. But he ends up being probably the nicest of the bunch. But you have him, you have Amanda Peet, who is really good. Maya Rudolph, of course. Um, and Tony Collette, as you said, who in this plays, you know, her and Steve Carell are together. And the last movie they were in together was Little Miss Sunshine, where they play brother and sister. So it's a slightly different energy, but clearly they have a good working relationship. They feel comfortable with each other by this point. So I think they have a really good chemistry between the two of them. They work together really well.
I thought they almost had a better chemistry as brother and sister in that movie, actually, because as much as I love Toni Collette, I feel like she's sort of in the background in this, even though she has like an important storyline in it, and maybe that's the character, is that she's just kind of like passive and
I
really
think
can't
so.
stand up for herself. But yeah, she was the one thing for me that felt like, I don't know, it wasn't fully engaging in the way I wish it would have been.
I think that's fair, but I do think I see it the way you just mentioned, where I think that's what the character has to be. I think she's damaged and she's trying to kind of figure out how to float. Um, and yeah, just trying hard to kind of keep things stable.
Yeah,
And so yeah, she's fading into the background. She has that one scene when they're playing Candyland where she kind of cracks.
right.
But for the most part, yeah, I think she's just trying to ignore as much as she can.
That scene
It's
is
the
a
character.
perfect example of Trent's narcissism and just what a dick he is. I mean,
Yeah.
it.
Who doesn't want to play Candyland? Don't be
I
a
know,
jerk.
and who has to go by the rules in Candyland? I
Oh,
mean,
give me a break.
I'm a stickler for the rules, but I think if I were in Candyland, I'd let it slide. I mean, who cares? You
As
know?
someone who's played many games of Candyland, yeah, eventually you just kind of have to let it go.
Yeah, but
Even
Trent can't.
even because the whole point of Candyland when you're playing with your children is that you're trying to get it over with. So you can bend the rules to let them win. It's perfectly fine.
Ooh, take gumdrop pass every
Yeah, that's
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Go take that. That's good. Actually, okay. Is total side note tangent, which you can delete if you want to. But they changed Candyland from the original version to a newer version.
Oh,
Whereas in the day, the original, the final, the final, what's the thing I'm looking for? The final box,
okay.
we'll call it. The
Yeah.
end of the game was an actual color that you
Okay.
had to land on. In the newer version that I bought, where my kids were old, where my kids were little, the last box is every color. So no matter what color you get at the end of the game, if you're close to it, you win.
Redesigned by a parent.
Yeah, the notes must have been my parents like, look, we got to wrap this up faster. So let's just make it work and we'll be done.
Wow.
Um, anyway,
Man, it's so
speaking
woke
of
at the
nerdy
end.
things about games, this is something I have to say. So there's the scene where Owen's playing Pac-Man in
Hmm.
the arcade and passes it to Duncan. And he tells him that he wants to get to the next board. And Duncan tells him, well, all the boards in Pac-Man are the same. That we all know that's not true, by the way.
Yeah.
It's every two boards it changes. So it's two boards of the same and then it changes. So not to be a nerd about Pac-Man, but that is a factually incorrect statement.
Interesting. I wouldn't have known that.
This is what I bring. I'm bringing you minutia about games that no one cares about anymore. There you go.
I love it.
Oh, and honest, wait. So connected to that, what I meant to say, we talked about when this movie was made, and it was originally written a decade before it was made, but it was also originally set in the 80s.
I wanted to
And you
ask
could,
you. Yeah.
yeah,
I
and you
can't
can
tell.
absolutely see that. You could absolutely see that it probably is 80s adjacent. Even the fact that he's listening to REO Speedwagon, which makes no sense.
But
It was originally set in the 80s and they decided to change it because they wanted to make it a little more timeless.
right.
So you don't really know when it's set. But look, I mean, based on the bike he's riding, based on REO Speedwagon, based on him playing Pac-Man in the arcade, a lot of these things, other than the cell phones, there's nothing in this movie that would indicate to you that it's a modern movie.
Well, there's one line where when Owen is showing Duncan around the park, where he says, "Don't Google that." And that was the
Right.
only thing that because that totally threw me. I thought, well, this must be set in the 80s. And then I heard Google reference. So, yeah, maybe there's some script doctoring there and that slipped through the cracks or something.
Yeah, I think that they just kind of started, what's the word? They started fudging a little bit with when it was, because they decided to change in the 80s, but kept a lot of it the same.
Is this
Actually, that's one of my favorite lines where he says, "Don't look that up. That fact predates technology."
yeah.
I just really like that line.
Is this an Elio situation where they had a different version of this movie?
I don't know. But yeah, you can, even Water Whiz feels like an 80s park. I mean, there's just no doubt about it.
I don't know. I haven't been to a water park in decades, but in all of my time visiting them in Wildwood, especially as a young kid, Never once did I have to rent swim trunks. Is that something they do?
I- Why do you think he said that no one ever goes to the booth?
That is bizarre. Like, why would that even be a thing?
Yeah, if you have to rent swim trunks, you should just stay home.
Ooh, that was really upsetting when that. Although it does give a great platform to Jim Rash to do what he does, and
So, what I first know Jim Rash from, which is probably what a lot of other people, although maybe not because nobody really watched Community, but whatever. But
heartbreaking.
obviously, Jim Rash from Community. I was a huge fan of Community, and this was around that same time as well. And when you look at the character that he plays in Community, who is just outrageous and flamboyant and just crazy, compared to this character who is just all of his lines are delivered with such subtlety, like exhausted subtlety. It really shows you the range that he has. That he can be funny in a lot of different ways.
It's almost like he gave himself the best lines because the when he's talking about storm chasing and he explains it, he's like, "Oh, there's a storm, go grab it." Like he has the
Yeah.
most subtle and fun lines in the movie, I think, and I guess you can do that if you're the writer and director. I want to talk a little bit about like what Sam Rockwell's role is in this and how important it is because you mentioned that Pac-Man scene, and as he's leaving, when Duncan is finishing out his quarter, he says to him, "Hey, this is my quarter, no patterns, carve your own path." And he says something similar again at the end of the film. And I think like contained inside of those bookends is like the power of this film with that relationship between Owen and Duncan. And it's obviously what Duncan is lacking at home. We find out his dad doesn't really want him around, and Trent definitely doesn't want him around. And just having that touchstone of Owen during the summer is such a beautiful thing. And he kind of surpasses Owen. Like Owen's taught him all he can learn from him by the end of the movie, and then he sets him free, which I just think it's such a beautiful relationship. And in the other films I watched, Adventureland and The Kings of Summer, you don't really have that as much. It's kind of the kids finding their own way, but I think that's what sets this apart is that it has that mentor, which is just such a beautiful story, even though Owen is ridiculous and you really question like his ambition and he talks about painting houses until it gets too cold and bar backing. So you don't really know what his life is, but he has a lot of wisdom for this kid and it's
I think
beautiful.
that's why he has that wisdom. And you can
Yeah.
see that he that Duncan wants to be him, and he's like, "You don't like.
Yeah.
There's more for you than being me. Believe
Right.
me." And I think that that's why he's a good mentor. That it's kind of like this is not what you want out of your life. Um,
Yeah. I just think it's a really beautiful relationship and because Duncan needs it so much, it's great.
so another good relationship we haven't mentioned this yet was Allison Janney in this movie plays Betty, which is a character unlike stuff you've seen her in before. I mean, she's done some comedy before, but this is kind of an unhinged, off the rails kind of character that I think between this and she also did Mom started this same year, I think
Mhm.
2013. So I think that those two parts kind of opened up a whole new thing for Allison Janney. But in this one, yeah, she plays someone with no filter, but who ends up being more honest and more likable by the end because she is who she is unapologetically, unlike someone like Trent who's trying to kind of hide or barely try to pretend what his true nature is.
Yeah.
Um, but the relationship between her and Peter, her son, with the one lazy eye, is a lot of comedy in that. And what she mentioned is that one of the great directions that she got was that they had told her to play that relationship like an old married couple,
Yeah.
that was the direction that she got. And when you hear that, like, and she said that was the greatest piece of advice that I've received. And you can see that energy, like the way they speak to each other and the way they play off of each other feels exactly like that. And it really works.
She is my favorite part of this movie. I mean, she comes out of the gate swinging. As soon as you see her, she's like, "I'm off the wagon, accept it and move on." And it's just like out of the gate, she is fantastic. I'm glad you mentioned that about the relationship because that goes both ways. Peter, this little boy, is the same way. And it's so wonderful. I mean, when he gets home from the night that he and Duncan spent at the water park, he says, I'll talk to you about it when I wake up. And she's like, who are you talking to? So he's like this little adult. I love that when there's a little adult in a movie. You know, for some reason I think of Better Off Dead and the younger brother in that, who was like bringing in women
Yo,
and
I cannot believe that you just brought that up. I literally just watched Better Off Dead with my son last night.
wow.
I decided it was time and I broke out Better Off Dead and we just watched it. I was going to talk about it in the stuff that we watched part at the end. I can't believe it. Crazy.
Did you get Peter energy from his little brother in that?
Yeah, there is something to that. Although I did, but I didn't because his brother in Better Off Dead, he never even speaks.
Yeah,
It's like he's just quietly taking over the world with no
right.
words at all. But
Yeah,
Peter is definitely a slightly different bird. But you're
yeah.
right.
Still in the cast, Anna Sophia Robb, worth mentioning. She is kind of like almost a bridge between Duncan and Owen in a way. I mean, she kind of gives Duncan a little bit of confidence just by being basically like him. I mean, she kind of keeps to herself, has trouble with her dad. And so she's kind of like a counterpart almost. And I really like
Yeah, I
that.
think that yeah, I like that what you see here is that you're right that she's uncomfortable because she's trying to fit in with that crew, that group of girls. With Duncan's, it's not his stepsister, whoever the hell she is to him. Trent's daughter. I think her
Yeah.
name is Steph. Uh, and you can see that that's not who she wants to be with either. But she kind of has no choice
Yeah.
because that's the crew that's there, and you have to make your way. But there's all these mean girls around her, and she's just trying to read a book, and that's not really her scene. And I think that it goes both ways because Duncan allows her to become more of who she wants to be rather than
Yeah.
having to pretend to be them. And so they help each other in that way.
But of course, Duncan, tries to make a move like an awkward teenager and it doesn't work out. But
You got to shoot your shot, man. I mean,
yeah, I mean, just the fact that he did that, at that point, this was after the blow up with Trent. And that is an important scene, I think. Toward the end of the movie, it's found out that Trent's been lying to Pam, right? Yeah, about where he's been. I mean, you get the sense that he's been cheating on her with Amanda Pete. Amanda Pete shows up in like a bandana, the way
yep,
Pam had that at the beginning of the movie, so it makes it pretty obvious.
so gross.
But in that scene, you see Duncan speak up for the first time, really, and
Yeah.
confront his mom and Trent, and that is like such a beautiful thing. I mean, that's what it's
I'll
been
just
building
say
to.
though, in that scene, a part that's almost shocking when you go back and rewatch it is that Duncan pushes Trent, and you see Trent just like the anger flash, and he charges at Duncan, and Kip has to stop him.
Yeah,
And it's like that 1 second is like legitimately scary because you're like, Trent is about to beat a 14-year-old boy. Like he was going after him.
yep,
And that moment, it's like all the veils fall. And
yeah.
so at the end, when he's like, let's just forget about what happened last night or whatever, it's just like, yeah, it's like that's a moment that you never forget.
That's the narcissism, man.
Yeah.
Steve Carell just plays it so well.
Yeah, and well done. Like you really in that moment, it's genuinely frightening when you watch it. You watch the mask drop, and it's like, yikes. By the way, Anna Sophia Robb had a nice mini run this last couple of years. She was in Rebel Ridge, which is a movie we both talked about in the past and really,
Love
really
it.
liked. And she was in a TV show called The Grosse Pointe Garden Society, which, again, I'm probably one of the few people that actually like the show. It was made by the same people that made the show Good Girls, which was another decent show. And they just canceled it after one season. So like they do with every show that I like. They canceled after one season, so there won't be any more of it. But I thought it was a pretty fun TV show, and she was pretty good in it.
And your TV viewing habits are baffling. It's really amazing.
You gotta keep it mixed up. You gotta mix it up.
You seem to only like things that get canceled.
This has been the story of my life. My family and I still bitch about that they canceled the show Invasion back in like the mid '90s because it ended on a cliffhanger, and we wanted to know what happened. And they canceled it. Our favorite shows have been canceled, going all the way back to Police Squad.
Yeah,
Well, we love the original Police Squad TV show that they
sure.
canceled. Yeah, we have zero luck. Clearly, we are never in step with the greater population of what is being watched on television, ever.
Your family is like the Ted McGinley on the other side of the screen. That's really amazing.
That's really funny you say that because we had a running joke for years that if you put Ted McGinley on your TV show, it was going to be canceled.
Right.
And we knew that too. Yeah. So yeah, we used to joke about that all the time. We're like, oh, they added McGinley. There's no way this show's going to make it another 2 seasons. But now he's on Shrinking. He's finally found his place.
Oh, well, that's not going to last.
After all these years.
Yeah, I don't know. I need to watch that while it's still on, because if he's on it, it's not going to be on for long. I just want this. So this came out in 2013, and I really want to talk about what a year that was for independent film, because I've had this thought for a while that it's one of the most important years for independent filmmaking. And you haven't really seen this kind of thing since, but it's led to so much. And I just want to run down a couple things that happened. Here are some of the things that came out in 2013. You have 12 Years a Slave. Lupita Nyong'o won an Oscar for that, multiple nominations. Ain't Them Bodies Saints, which is the second film from David Lowery. He would go on to do The Green Knight, really kind of launched his career. You have Before Midnight, the Linklater film in the trilogy. Begin Again, John Carney's second film. This is like a great year for sophomore films. The Bling Ring from Sofia Coppola. Blue Caprice, which if you haven't seen, I highly recommend. I can't remember the director, but it hasn't gone on to do much after it. But it's a story about the DC sniper, John Muhammad, from back in like the 90s or 2000s. Really, really good film. You have Blue is the Warmest Color, which is a very controversial French film, kind of launched Léa Seydoux. If she's been launched, I don't know if she's actually been launched.
I mean, she was in multiple Bond movies, so I think that's pretty.
And Mission
launched.
Impossible. So yeah,
exactly.
You have Dallas Buyers Club, 2 Oscar wins, Matthew McConaughey and Jared Leto for that. You have Fruitvale Station, Ryan Coogler's first film. Of course, this year he's gone on to make Sinners, which has become such a great thing. You have In a World, which was the first film directed by Lake Bell. That has a 92 on Rotten Tomatoes.
I love that movie.
I love that film so much. And then you have The Kings of Summer, which I mentioned, I watched earlier this week, directed by Jordan Vogt Roberts. He went on to do Kong Skull Island, and he got into a lot of TV. You also have Short Term 12, which for me is the film Brie Larson should have won an Oscar for.
Yeah.
And that's a 98 on Rotten Tomatoes, directed by Destin Daniel Cretton. Unbelievable movie. I'd love to do it on here sometime. You have The Spectacular Now, directed by James Ponsoldt, who went on to do The End of the Tour, the film about David Foster Wallace, The Circle with Tom Hanks, based on a Dave Eggers novel. So he's a very literary guy. He went on to do Shrinking. He's actually written and directed some of the Shrinking episodes. You have My Beloved Under the Skin from Jonathan Glazer, one of my favorite movies of all time. Whiplash, which won 3 Oscars. And then you have this movie. Like, that is a year of independent film that I think is unmatched. And it's led to so many things beyond it that we love now. So I just wanted to shout it out as like one of those great years that we talk about 99 or we talk about 76. I think at least in the independent realm, 2013 should be in that same conversation, because everything I just listed is an outstanding film. So just to throw that out there, I really love this year, and I'm glad we get to talk about it.
Yeah, you're right. That is a hell of a run of movies. Yeah, I think there's two quick things I just want to mention with off topic kind of, but so Liam Payne in this movie, I want to shout out the casting directors of this TV show Psych, because it turns out that Liam Payne was the original young Sean on Psych, but then he started looking a little too old, so they replaced him with Skylar Gisondo to play young Sean. So it turns out that both of the kids who played young Sean have gone on to have pretty decent careers. So he did a good job of picking young child actors in that show. And I just thought that was worth mentioning. The other thing I wanted to mention, because I don't know when else I would ever have the opportunity to shout out Eli Paperboy Reed. In the party scene, there's a song that plays while they're all dancing. And it's a song called Recess by Eli Paperboy Reed, who's a singer-songwriter out of Massachusetts. Uh, I love Eli Paperboy Reed. He's made a couple of my favorite albums. One called "Come and Get It." He sings like blue-eyed soul with like a throwback feel. He's made a couple of changed genres a little bit sometimes, but that's his main thing. I think he is a ton of fun. I think he's made some really fun records, and no one seems to know he exists. So what the hell? To the 12 people that are listening, I will shout it out here and just say it's worth checking out. Eli Paperboy Reed. I kind of love him.
I'm glad you brought him up because the soundtrack to this sort of contributes to the ambiguity of the time. I mean, there's very contemporary stuff, but there's also a ton of 80s stuff. So like Ben Queller's on there, but then there's REO Speedwagon. And
there's 2 songs by Edie Brickell, interestingly enough. Yeah, which is very out of time. I don't.
Yeah, the soundtrack, very, very good and very, very confusing as to when this is set. So let's talk about the numbers a little bit. This is pretty well received on Rotten Tomatoes, 83 critics score, 84 audience score. So pretty high, 3.7 on Letterboxd. It's very well received. I think some of the reviews I read that are negative don't really get it in a way. I think they're looking for something that this isn't. And ultimately, it's just a summer film about coming of age with a lot of heart. And, you don't need much more than that. But did pretty well at the box office, had a $5 million budget and grossed $27 million. So that's a decent return on a small investment. And it's one of the few things that's available to watch on streaming right now. I watched it on Amazon. So
yeah,
I'm actually surprised. But so... yeah, that's it for The Way Back. It's a lot of fun. I think, as summer movies go, this is up there. And having watched all of the things around it, like Kings of Summer and Adventureland, maybe watch all 3 of those in a week or something if you want to. It's a pretty nice
we talk
feature.
about our favorite kinds of movies, and the summer coming of age movie is way up there in terms of my favorite kinds of movies. So this checks all the boxes for me.
Yeah, and pairs well with Summer School too. I think it falls into that, has a lot of heart film genre, not a lot of comedy in the same way, but it's very much akin to that film, I think. So yeah, that is The Way Back. Let's move on to what we watched this week.
Well, so we already briefly mentioned it, but yeah, so I told you I'm trying to keep the body count down, and I've been in this summer movie mode while watching this stuff. And so I've been trying to find, I think for me, the summer is about like movies that are kind of short, not that consequential. I like breezy movies in the summer. That's always what I'm looking for. So I ended up putting on Better Off Dead last night because it was one of those movies I had like saved in my queue, and I was like, we should just watch it. And I know One Crazy Summer in a way a lot more, less than better, like more than Better Off Dead. And so I decided to watch this one first. And I realized, I didn't even realize it's made by the same exact guy, basically all the same people. It's very similar.
Savage Steve Holland?
Yeah, Savage Steve. He made both those movies. So it's like, they're just like companion movies. I didn't even realize that until I went back and rewatched Better Off Dead. But yeah, it was enjoyable. My 10-year-old thought it was funny. It's pretty cool. I kind of started going down a John Cusack rabbit hole because he very much made a lot of those coming of age movies around this period of time. But here's something I stumbled onto that I didn't even know. I'm amazed. I'm shocked and saddened for myself that in 1987, John Cusack made a movie with Robert Loggia playing a pirate, where he's in pursuit of his girlfriend. It's called Hot Pursuit. I had no idea this movie even existed. How on earth does a movie with Robert Loggia as a pirate exist that I've never heard of?
Oh my God.
And then I watched it for about 45 minutes and I understood why, because it's not a very good movie. But I had to give it a chance because that was too good a premise to pass up. So I decided to watch that too. But
So is it just
not very good.
Robert Loggia being Robert Loggia with like an eye patch?
He doesn't have an eye patch, and he definitely gives off Robert Loggia energy.
Awesome.
But yeah, it's like I can't believe that. I never know this movie existed. Anyway,
Wow.
so I watched Better Off Dead, and I also watched Smokey and the Bandit with my 10-year-old.
Did you watch that on streaming?
Yeah, it's on Netflix right now.
Okay, good. I want to
So
watch that.
it's borderline a little bit, but not that much. It's still PG. It's a little bit of innuendo and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's just really funny. And yeah, going back and watching it, I just find it to be heartwarming in a way where it's kind of like I know when I watched that movie as a kid, like the idea of like Southern culture was completely foreign to me,
Yeah.
like, and in a way, it was just kind of cool to go back and revisit that time where, and there's the great scene with Burt Reynolds and Sally Field where they're talking to each other about their interests, and he says something like, your level of ignorance is related to the place that you're standing. And
Interesting.
I just really like that line, which just showed, it's like there are different parts of the country and the culture where they like things that are completely different. And I think it's less so now because there's so much monoculture because of the internet. But there was a time where, it's like, people from different parts of the country have completely different interests and knowledge about things, and you're not familiar with any of it. And I just thought that was fun to watch. But I love Jerry Reed, by the way. I mean, loved 70s Burt Reynolds. I mean, all of those things. I really enjoy the hell of it. And Buford T. Justice, Jackie Gleason has some of the best line readings in any movie I've ever seen.
He's so good.
It never fails to make me laugh. So Smoking the Bandit still holds up pretty damn well. I enjoyed it.
I'm glad you brought that to the show because I've been wanting to watch it, and Cannonball Run, which I don't know if that's streaming or not, but
I actually bought Cannonball Run. I think I mentioned this in another pod. I actually bought it on DVD recently because it's not on streaming anywhere.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see it and remember to see if it was as good or bad as I remember it being. I really liked it, and I have no idea if it still holds up, but I kind of wanted to watch it.
Did you rewatch it?
I haven't even watched it yet. It's in the cabinet. I have to break it out.
All right.
But so in terms of theaters, I went to see F1, like I told you I was going to go see F1.
Oh, yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. I realized something about myself, that I only like my car racing in movie form.
Yeah.
I don't really care for car racing in general. I'm not knocking it. It's just not something I particularly enjoy. But as a movie, I really love it. I really like, the drama of the car racing in a movie. So I liked F1. I thought it was a good time.
I'm like that with most sports, like especially football. I don't like football at all because it's, I went to one football game actually at your alma mater, the University of Delaware. And I sat in the stands, like maybe like 10 or 20 yard line. And when the action was down the field on the other 10 or 20 yard line, it was like microscopic and completely uninteresting. But on film, like if you watch, Any Given Sunday, it's like the most dramatic, amazing sport there is.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think football is a TV sport. I've been to live football too. I don't enjoy it half as much watching on TV. But that's the thing I realized when I'm watching the car racing movies, that when I'm watching football or baseball or even basketball, those are sports I know really well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I find myself getting distracted by the minutia of like how well they represent the sport.
Yeah.
But with car racing, I have no idea what the hell's going on. I don't know what they're talking about. I don't know any of this stuff. I didn't realize that you needed to pit in like less than 8 seconds. Like I don't know anything about this stuff. So because I don't know anything, I think I'm just more open to sitting back and enjoying it without thinking at all about it. And I think that makes me enjoy it more.
I think what's interesting about car racing and probably football is that, well, at least with car racing, it's people driving in a circle, basically, right? Like, how interesting is that? But when they sort of put a microscope on it, and you're in the cockpit with the driver, or you're in the pit with the crew, like it's definitely 100 times more interesting. So, like, I think going in on it is the way to sell it, and of course, film and TV is going to do that. So it makes perfect sense.
I also love that there was a small cameo part by Shea Wingham.
Yes.
Who, as long as dad movies exist, Shea Wingham will always have work. He will be in every one of these movies for all time.
He's my man. I went to see it with Laura, and when he's on screen, I'm like, it's Shea Wiggum.
Yeah,
I
it's just
love him
great.
so much. One of my favorite character actors.
And so finally, I also saw Jurassic World, the new Jurassic World movie.
Okay.
And yeah, I came to another conclusion about myself that I don't care about dinosaur movies anymore. Because in all honesty, this was a good one. I think it was well made. I feel like, I liked all the actors in it. I enjoyed it as a concept,
Uh-huh.
but 2 hours and 10 minutes of the same thing, like CGI dinosaurs, like I'm just kind of bored with it now. Like I just realized I'm kind of done with it. Like I don't need this anymore. There was one shot in the movie that I really loved that involved like a flare that I really, really liked. Or I was just like, objectively, that's a really cool shot. I liked
Yeah.
it. And there were moments of the movie that I thought were fine, but this whole dinosaur thing just doesn't sustain my interest for 2 hours anymore. It's just, I'm kind of done with it.
Yeah. I agree.
Many people obviously do not agree, and those are all the same people that are watching the TV shows I'm not watching, I guess. But
yeah.
that's my lot in the world. What are you gonna do? But yeah, I can take it or leave. My 10-year-old really enjoyed it, and I guess that's who we're making these movies for. So
Oh, did you see what I meant about the guy never losing his glasses?
absolutely,
Oh my God. I mean, like, what does it take to get this guy's glasses off his
yeah,
head?
it's like Indiana Jones's hat. Yeah,
Yeah. Did you see the Odyssey trailer before it?
I did. I actually meant to say that to you. So I watched the Odyssey trailer with my son, and I feel kind of bad about it. Like I'm gonna be in a dilemma next year because he actually loves the Odyssey and really likes this whole mythology thing. He's super into it right now. But I kind of know now that the Odyssey is going to be a rated R movie.
Yeah.
Like I'm almost positive it is, and I'm like I have no idea whether or not I'm going to bring him to see it, even though I know he really, really wants to see it. But it looks, I mean, yeah, it's going to be a hell of a thing. Like I mean, the only question is if it's going to be so violent that I won't be able to bring my son to see it. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be something.
I see. I saw Jurassic Park at the AMC Screen Unseen thing, so they didn't have as many trailers before it. So I haven't seen the Odyssey trailer yet. I refuse to watch a bootleg of it online because I mean, I don't think you can do Nolan that way. But I people are losing their minds over it. Like I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, and I'd say it's like lose your mind level at this point. Just a teaser trailer, but it looks like it's going to be something. But here's the interesting part in terms of when they showed it. So I heard that it was going to be that it was being shown with Jurassic Park,
Mhm.
and sat through all the trailers. Got there to see them all, which I normally don't do anymore. Sat through all the trailers. They do all of it. They do the commercial. They do
Yeah.
the exit thing, and it actually ran right before the movie started. So it was like its own slot, like
Right.
right before the movie. So it had prime position.
Wow. Yeah, I
Yeah,
bet people were panicked. Like they're not going to show it. Oh my God.
I was thinking that. Yeah,
I heard at AMC they do it after the Nicole Kidman thing. So when people see that, they're probably like, "Holy shit! Where's the Odyssey trailer?"
yeah, that's what I mean. They show it like right before the actual movie starts. So which is yeah, I haven't seen that before.
All right. Did I watch anything else this week? I mentioned Kings of Summer and Adventureland. You're never going to believe this. I watched an animated film.
Wow.
I don't know if it was Disney or Pixar. I don't remember. It must have been Disney. Well, aren't they the same? I don't even know. But it's called Ron's Gone Wrong. Have you heard of this?
I loved that movie.
It's
I think that
wonderful.
movie's super underrated. It's like it flew under the radar. Yeah. I That was a good one to see. It was a sleeper as far as I was concerned. Really good.
What a great commentary on the impact of social media on children and technology. It's about a little kid who everybody in his class, literally everybody except him, has this new robot that's built basically by Apple. I mean, the villain is like Steve Jobs essentially, and everybody's connected via social media through these little robots. And he finally gets one, and it's broken. But because it's broken, it's like cool and it's its own thing. And I won't say much more than that, but it was like a really fun film, and yeah, every time I watch animation, I'm pleasantly surprised, but I'm so like allergic to it the rest of the time that Laura really has to twist my arm to watch it.
Yeah. I totally get it, but some of them are really fun. That was a good one. Like to me, I think of that one same way I think of Big Hero 6.
Yeah.
Um, it, and they're better than you think that they're going to be.
Right.
But yeah, but that one I feel like just fell in like I don't know if it was a pandemic hole or whatever it was, but that movie is just kind of not mentioned at all, and I
Yeah.
think it's a shame.
I'd never even heard of it until Laura asked me to watch it with her. And she'd already seen it. She liked it so much that she wanted me to watch it. So I was like, okay. But
See, as we've said before, Laura and I feel are much more akin in our movie watching
yeah,
than you and I. But that's why this works better.
yeah, it's true. I don't know if it's the same on TV shows though, because she mostly watches things like The Crown and Downton Abbey. So I don't know if you.
It's fair. I definitely wanted Downton Abbey, but
Oh, you do? Okay.
I did, and I did watch for the first few seasons of The Crown. So maybe even there.
Okay.
Who can say?
So that's it for another episode. Thanks for listening. Come on back next week. We're going to carry on with Stories of Summer. We're going to talk about Theater Camp from 2023, which was directed by Molly Gordon and Nick Lieberman. I like this film a lot. I think it's pretty unique, and it's going to be fun to talk about. So join us for that, and we will see you then. So long. As always, thanks for listening to the Weekly Movie Throwdown. We'll be back next week with another exciting episode, so be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. And for even more from us, visit moviethrowdownpod.com or connect with us on social media. We're Movie Throwdown on Letterboxd and at Movie Throwdown Pod everywhere else.